Welcome back, and let's get started. And today, I think we're going to look at a very interesting module, and we are going to look at how mass media and how it's affected social values. There are so many social values that we can discuss about, but today I'm just going to focus on only one aspect. My first question for this class is: do you think media shapes our social values? Pause and give yourself some time and just get an idea of, do you have or do you think that media shapes our social values? Just to put things in perspective, I think at one point in America, if you are gay or lesbian or transgender, things were not easy for you. Sodomy was a capital crime, and if you are a man and if you ever wear women's clothes, you will be arrested. There have been instances where people were also killed, and there were instances like if a woman expresses love for another woman, she can be arrested. So this all happened in America at some point in time, but right now you all know that the same-sex marriage has been accepted in many states across the country, but it took a lot of effort to come to this point, and media has been really actually appreciated for the present state of the acceptance that we have with regard to LGBTQ issues in this country. I think in the book also they talk about the chapter when one of a very popular comic strip, they decided to have one of the characters to be a gay teenager. A lot of newspapers, they actually terminated the contract of that particular comic strip to just show the fact that people may not accept the fact that the teenager is a gay. But the comic strip author says that, man, it is what it is. No, that's reality. I'm trying to express what is happening in real life into my characters. I'm not just inventing things from thin air. This is what is life, and this is what is reality. That was his view, and that was his comment on that. And I think that's what is important. Media has definitely actually shaped how gays and lesbians are being viewed, and largely because of the fact, I think during the 1980s and 90s, there are a lot of small characters that actually popped up in media, trying to give some kind of recognition for these issues that people are facing in society. And actually, to counter this, there were a lot of organizations across the country where they said, if this television station or the sponsors are promoting all this homosexuality and lesbian related characters, we are going to boycott that product. So there were also some kind of counter efforts to avoid this kind of portrayal of homosexuality in televisions, but we definitely come a long way. And I'm going to start this class with this clip. I don't know if many of you are familiar with this lady. Her name is Kim Davis.
The county clerk defying the Supreme Court, denying same-sex couples marriage licenses. She returned to work today with an armed escort and turning down yet another gay couple. We know some of those couples documenting their encounters with the woman who insists she is following God's authority, not the Supreme Court's. ABC's Alex Perez now on what that county clerk is now asking for.
County Clerk Kim Davis defiant today, her husband at her side, armed with a handgun tucked in his waistband. Waiting for her inside, another gay couple looking for a marriage license.
Your interpretation of the Bible does not trump the Constitution. Your interpretation of the No, this is not.
Davis today asking a federal judge to allow her to deny marriage licenses to same-sex couples while her case makes its way through the courts. The controversial clerk catapulted to the spotlight in July with this cell phone video. David Moore and David Ermold arriving for a marriage license.
If I could mention, I have a letter from the governor's office stating that all the county clerks are to issue marriage licenses. And I also have the Supreme Court ruling.
Davis turning them away. They tried again in August and again yesterday. Same result.
When you heard her say she's working under God's authority,
Yes.
what did you think?
You are not in the church. I respect religion. I respect people's faith. Okay, but this is a civil institution.
But in this small town of about 6,900 people, Kim Davis has her supporters too.
I'm standing behind her because I believe she is right. She's following God's law, and I believe that trumps all.
And David, the U.S. attorney here tonight, saying it's time for Davis to follow the law. Tomorrow, a judge could decide if she will be held in contempt of court. David?
Alex Perez tonight. Alex, thank you.
So you can see, I mean, right now we are living in a period where people are actually voicing their opinion vocally about this cannot be tolerated. I think it was around 1998, right about the time when Google was invented, the Supreme Court stepped in and said, like, bans of any of this kind should actually be lifted in terms of homosexuality and all this stuff. And I think many states have actually towed the line, and they have recognized same-sex marriage. But as you can see in this case, clearly, even though the Supreme Court has given the ruling that says yes, same-sex marriages should be in place, this county clerk decided to just go with her personal opinion, and very subjectively saying that she cannot issue. And this is some of the issues that we also see, that a lot of people who are not very happy with this kind of a liberal outlook of life. But I also want you to just have an understanding that this is claims to be the first television kiss, and apparently I think my computer doesn't want to show any kissing scenes, and that's why it's kind of, it's blocking itself. That's called self-censoring. Anyways, this was a television clip from 1997, or I'm not very sure about the date, but the first kissing scene on television was supposed to be on in 1991. And again, that was again much talked about, and it took a lot of effort, like people like Ellen and all that. They kind of brought the issues of LGBTQ issues to mainstream media, and we've definitely come a long way, but all is not well. For instance, even in countries like Jamaica, I think you'll be appalled with the kind of situation that exists in terms of homosexuality. A lot of people are
Gays and
killed.
lesbians in Jamaica live in a state of constant fear. We live knowing that the probability of us being killed is very high.
Dwayne Jones was a transgender youth who was chased out of home at about 14 years old. He was killed because he was at a party, he was dressed in female wear, and someone at the party outed him.
This was at a street dance with about 300 people, and it appeared that no one attempted to intervene as they ran him down, stabbed him, shot him 3 times, and then ran over him with a car and left him to die on the side of the road.
How does it reflect on society when you have a 16-year-old kid that's being so brutally murdered and nothing happens, no consequence? When I was in Jamaica and I interviewed over 77 LGBT people, the one thing that we heard time and time again was about how they were not accepted by society. Kids as young as 12 years of age being kicked out of their homes.
I was beaten by 6 guys along with my brother and my mother in Spanish Town, where I had to run and pack my things and leave from that community. That's how I ended up here.
I have been following the homeless LGBT youth who live in storm drains. For these youth, it means that they have shown signs of behavior that is outside of the heterosexual norms. That may mean that they are bullied at home, at school, or bullied within their families. Sometimes communities threaten to beat the gay youth, presumably to beat the gayness out of him. And the threat can be escalated to threats of death or threats of burning down the home in which the youth lives. These persons feel that there is nowhere to go.
So just because your
is not
sexuality
necessarily
is
illegal.
something different from the norm, how people are persecuted, and it's really traumatizing to see how people are killed. I mean, we're talking about countries which is like just very close to the United States, because I think in some countries being homosexual is totally not acceptable, and things are very difficult. What if people are like that way and they really don't know what to do? and this is the sad situation. They are even chased out by their own family members. And actually, this is an grab screenshot from what happened in the Middle East, when these are like, teenage school kids, where they were caught, in a sexual act, and they were hanged in the public square in that particular country. And this is what it is. People have very less tolerance for this kind of behavior in certain countries. And even people are also claiming that media also has to play a role. And thanks to the role of media played in the United States, that this issue of gay and lesbian and homosexuality was constantly portrayed, and took several decades for to reach at this point in time, where they're also taking initiative to count, or take a population count of how many LGBTQ people are living in the United States. I think about by 2011 there were close to about 9 million people who have exhibited or who have come out openly in terms of identifying themselves as LGBTQ. But I think they are now making a consensus through the government authorities to document the population of the number of gay people, or homosexuality people, or people with LGBTQ, to be documented, so that that kind of numbers will help in bringing out some kind of structure, so that their demands are represented or met by the authorities. Because a lot of people who are having even same-sex marriage, they're having issues in terms of Medicaid, issues in terms of pension benefits and all that, because of all the constitutional issues. And now they are making initiatives to ensure that they are also taken in the count of the number of people that live in the mainland United States, so that their issues are addressed at the earliest. So definitely we have come a long way, and it should be mostly thankful because of the media. And again, I thought this also was an interesting screenshot, because again, this is again very popular, and they're trying to popularize this. As you can see, congratulations, you're legally married on Sunday, because at that night you're legally denied a hotel room for your honeymoon because of your sexual orientation in some states. On Monday you can be legally fired from your job in certain states. On Tuesday you're legally evicted, and on Wednesday you're legally denied. On Thursday your child is legally expelled from college. So these are some of the situations that still exist. So even though at one point in time we are celebrating, a lot of states are acknowledge the needs that has to be met with regard to LGBTQ, but there are many states where they have a very less tolerance for these kind of issues. And there have been instances where all these things have happened and has been documented as well. So you will have to keep in mind, this was not something that happened overnight. The kind of lifestyle that the LGBTQ people are enjoying in this country can be largely attributed to how the media coverage of them actually gained momentum over this last 3 or 4 decades. I think the first newspaper to even hire a LGBTQ reporter to even report on these issues was in San Francisco. Even New York Times refused to even use the word homosexual until the recent past. So again, it was something that this consensus happened over a period of time because of the effect of media. What if we had a media where they condone this over and over and over again, and we also think, oh, this is an issue that we have to condone. So media can sometimes uh, help us put things in perspective, and that's why we also need to say we need to have some diverse viewpoints when it comes to media. Again, there is again a beautiful theory which again was postulated by Noel, where she came up with this theory called spiral of silence, which means people if you are in a room, and if a lot of views are towards one topic, and if your views is towards some other topic against the majority views, you tend to keep yourself quiet and move along with the majority of what people are thinking. That's called spiral of silence. So what if all the journalists are talking about, well, we really need to condone this. We really don't want to talk about homosexuality. And what about some reporters who want to really report about that, but they cannot do that, fearing that they will have some kind of repercussions. Another example, you're going on in the car, and you're listening to, for instance, Justin Bieber, okay? And some people like, oh, why they mix shitty music and all this stuff, and they try to turn it. But you might like Justin Bieber, but just because your friends don't like Justin Bieber, you tend not to show your affinity towards certain people, because your taste will be judged with the kind of music that you like. So this is what is called how media affects us, and how we also build a theory out of that, and that is called the spiral of silence. Again, it's very important that we need to have some diverse viewpoints, so that we have a better understanding of various issues that we are facing right now. And imagine the concept of homosexuality is still looked down upon in many countries. Even in India, if you're homosexual, you can be arrested, and in some countries we can even be put to death. And it's really unfortunate, but I think it will take several centuries, and the role of media can play a very crucial effect in terms of understanding certain issues and bringing out that issues to mainstream media as well. And this is what I just wanted to briefly talk to you about, the issues of gay and LGBTQ issues. I think the chapter in detail talks about the issue of politics and all that. So we can talk about many social values, and how the media coverage on that is important. But I restricted myself just to one topic, so that you understand media coverage on certain issues are very important, so that people have better clarity of what is happening in the society. I also wanted to talk to you about an important aspect of the portrayal of women in movies. And there is a test called Bechdel test, where it talks about a very interesting perspective. As you can see, if you see in any mainstream media, the role of women is very limited, and I think things are changing a little bit. I think the first ever super character movie, Wonder Woman, was directed by a female, and it was a blockbuster. But again, things are changing, but it didn't happen overnight. And let's look at this. What's this Bechdel test is all about? So this is what the scenario is. Okay, you take any movie that you have seen, any movie you've seen in the recent past, or any movie that you have seen in the past. If there are at least two women in a scene, and if they talk to each other, and if they talk anything other than man, because what happens is, mostly if you have two women talking in a room, it will be mostly about men. Okay, they're talking about, oh, look at this guy, and what happened, oh, blah blah blah, all this stuff. So they said, like, no, do you think when two women come together, they only have things to talk about men, and they don't have anything other than else to talk about? And this actually a conversation which actually started with a comic strip slowly gained momentum, and right now I think they've actually made a database of all the movies that have been released from then till now, and did a Bechdel test to analyze how women are portrayed, and how their talk revolves about, when they're by themselves, what is their content of talk is all about. And again, you find that very interesting, that things have changed in the recent past. I think the score of Bechdel test was bad in the 80s and 90s, and even in the early 2000s, but right now I think it's getting little better. You should really check that out. And again, these are some of the statistics that you can talk about. When you look at the sexual violence in the United States, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 17 women will be raped at some point in their lives. I totally don't agree with this kind of research, but I think this is what I think they are giving some kind of statistics about sexual violence. And what actually the point is, how the portrayal of sexual violence in movies are also feeding into real life, and how it also kind of feeds also vice versa. So again, looking at how the content that happens in real life is reflected in media, and what is reflected in media also seeps into reality. And other important aspect is the portrayal of ethnic diversity in movies or in television series is also is a come under fire. There have been a lot of studies where they found out that the ethnic minorities like the Hispanics or the African Americans or Asians are almost stereotyped in many of the television series. And I think the book chapter also gives you some interesting statistics about the need to have diverse people, and the role and the portrayal of them is also very important.